CNA Metalworks is back in the heating business. They have forced air heating systems and standalone propane units. Just give Chris Aitchison a call at 707-785-2366. That's 785-2366. That's CNA Metalworks in the Sea Ranch.
This is KGUA 88.3 FM Wallala.
KGUA programming is also brought to you in part by Eric Wilder Graphics of Stewart's Point, California. Professional art ranging from traditional Pomo designs, greeting cards, clocks, and commercial logos and design. Find Eric Wilder on the web and Facebook at ericwildergraphics.com. Today's programs are also brought to you in part by Jane Kelly Bookkeeping. No more excuses, no more extensions, no more surprises, no more last-minute April 15th blues. Know where you are every month. No fear, no sweat. Make your tax accountant happy. That's Jane Kelly Bookkeeping, 707-884-9580.
And good morning, everybody. Peggy here at KGUA in Wallala, 88.3 FM. Well, did you think 2021 was going to be better? Did you think we were getting something brand new coming our way? Well, we're half right. We got something brand new coming our way, but we sure weren't expecting to be where we are at on the 13th day of January, just 6 days away from an inauguration. And I'm here with Leanne Lindsay, joining me in the studio today to help keep things moving smoothly, because I don't know about you, but I have felt like my brain is just so swamped that it's hard to keep track of things, you know? I mean, it's always been normal. You walk in a room and you think, oh, no, why did I come in here? But it's gotten even shorter than that, you know? It's like trying to keep two thoughts in your mind is really tough these days. So if you're there, we're all there together. It's not just you. You haven't lost it. I've had my days when I've said, Leanne, I think I've just lost it. And she's, no, I'm the same way. Everybody's the same way. So we're all in this together. Okay, we have the most wonderful guest this morning, Herb Kohl. We're going to talk to him in just a couple of minutes. But first, I want to talk to you about RCMS and the COVID vaccine and their updates, because I'm getting calls, emails, it's all over Facebook. Of course, RCMS is swamped with calls. Here's the first bit of news. RCMS does not yet have the vaccine in its possession. Okay. Now, that they are expecting it to arrive, but right now they don't have it. So they're not withholding anything from us as a community. When they get it, they will receive 500 doses, and the doses will be given following the guidelines of California Public Health. And those begin with emergency responders, essential workers, and those who are 75 and older. Now, that means those first 500 doses are basically spoken for, and they're going to go pretty quickly. Now, the other question people want to know is, how are we going to know if it's our time to take get the vaccination? Well, the way that RCMS is collecting the information is in two ways. First of all, it's online, and you can take the survey. It's in English and Spanish. It's on RCMS's webpage and on their Facebook page. Now, obviously, if you don't have access to online, there are paper surveys. You can pick those up, and they are being distributed by Coastal Seniors in Point Arena and at RCMS. So the information gathered from that survey is how they're going to determine what tier you are in and how they're going to contact you. You know, they need to know how to contact you as well. So remember that. You can take the survey. It's in English and Spanish. You can do it online, and it just takes a few minutes, really, just a few minutes. They're just trying to get the information they need to know what tier you're in and how to contact you. If you don't have access to the internet, pick up a copy at the Coastal Seniors in Point Arena or at our CMS clinic here. And I'm imagining it will also be at our CMS clinic in Point Arena. Now, the logistics will be announced online and in the press by me, and they will also call you. So we know that somehow, I don't know how all the rumors fly around, but it is true that when the vaccines arrive, they will be given at the community center. But this is by appointment only. This is not the same thing when we get our annual flu shots. There won't be dozens of us lined up waiting to get a vaccine. Again, there is an order to this. Emergency responders, essential workers, and those 75 and older. Once those have been done, then the other tiers will begin to get their vaccines. So that's really important to know. Now, another thing that you need to know, again, unlike when we all stand up and get a flu shot and go on with our lives, because of the vaccine is new, you will be asked to sit around for 15 to 30 minutes to make sure you're not having any side effects, and particularly an extreme side effect like an anaphylactic reaction. So they're going to be watching you to make sure you're okay. CLSD will be on hand just in case. So this is a major logistical event. And what's happening here is happening all over the United States, probably globally. So I talked to Ara this morning. They're getting ready to release some information today. But the most important thing you need to know is they don't have the vaccine yet. They're not holding back on the community. And when they do, it will be done in as orderly and proper fashion as possible. They need you to fill out the survey online or pick up a piece of paper, the survey, so they know how to contact you. They will contact you by email if you have it, or probably by phone. Those are the most important things that you need to know this morning. And so let's not be bad mouthing RCMS. You hear me? No bad mouthing. They're doing the best they can in their difficult situations. And we're all going to get our vaccinations, but it's going to take time. It's just not simple. And that's the way it is. Okay. Leanne, any questions, or was that clear? Leanne says I got it clear.
And I have something that we can post to Facebook too about phase 1 and phase 1A and 1B, but I'll get that on our Facebook page.
Okay, I don't think you probably heard Leanne, but she's going to be posting information on phase 1, 1A, 1B, and all of that, and it'll be on our Facebook page, KGUA's Facebook page.
And Instagram and Twitter.
And what's the other one? Pinterest?
No
Pinterest. Okay. See, I'm just not up on all of this stuff, but Leanne and the rest of the staff are. Okay, so with all of that, Herb Kohl, you're just sitting there looking calm as can be. Good morning, Herb. Oh, we're not hearing you. Hang on.
What about now?
We got you now. Okay. Maybe you can move a little closer to your computer, please.
Okay.
Got it.
All right. I'm not sure how I'm doing. I mean, my mind has been flooded with, I'm trying to understand what's going on. And I don't mean the impeachment. I'm talking about who are these people who are invading the Capitol building, who are threatening in all the states and what are their motives? How it seems to me, though there are lots of different groups, there must be some common threads there that would illuminate what's going on and illuminate the way in which they're acting, because it's very important to understand they are not acting as if they are demonstrating or protesting. They're invading. That's completely different than if you protest. You protest, you don't invade the space, you don't take it over, you don't threaten the lives of people, you don't come with your guns. It's a totally different thing, and I think it's terribly important to distinguish the protest in the legal sense from invasion, from really insurrection. And what's interesting is when you say, make America great again, what have been the greatest failures of the United States over the past 30 or so years? We have not had a military victory. We've lost in Vietnam. We got pushed around in Iraq. We're being pushed around in Afghanistan, where, in other words, America as a military force and an occupying force is not great. In fact, has been very, very humiliated all the time. And I remember when during Vietnam, I worked with a couple of people who had just left Vietnam. They were incoherent and violent half the time. The other half the time, they worked for me doing community organizing. But if something would happen and set them off, they were very, very dangerous. And my feeling is we have about 500,000 veterans who have served in American military operations overseas over the past 20 or so years. I thought of that when I saw some of those people scaling the Capitol. That's professional action. That's not amateur kids or young men or even older men who've learned how to do it. That is trained tactics. The people, my feeling is that when you, I'm just speculating, are many of the most militant people who are soldiers of wars they've lost. This may sound very strange, but when things like that happen, I make a tiny book for myself. And it's called 3 R's. And what I have in the book is rage, resentment, rancor, racism. There are a bunch of others, rejection. What is this? Repression and revolt and reaction.
Revenge.
What?
How about revenge?
And revenge. And it seems to me that we are dealing with, Trump has been able to reach people at the core of their resentment and at the core of their rancor and at the core of their sense of being failure, so that they can really resonate with the idea that their job is to take over and make America great again, because America needs a total whitewash, needs it to be totally eliminated. I think it's the only thing that I can figure that would make such blanket violence towards authority understandable. And so, yes.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to, I'm agreeing with you, Herb, and I'm really appreciating your thoughts on this. I don't think enough of us are thinking like this, looking at trying to take as broad and deep a picture of it, because so much of us are reacting. I also want to let our listeners know that this is also live on YouTube. And Herb, you should know that too. We're not only broadcasting on the radio, we're broadcasting our interview live on YouTube, and people will be able to not only hear us later, but see us later. Well, and right now in the White House, not in the White House, in Congress, the debate is going on about whether or not to impeach. And there's another piece of this. When you started with the R listing, there's something else that's very odd going on in Congress. Some of these newer Republicans, younger Republicans, are really angry that they have to go through metal detectors because they want to wear and carry their guns into Congress. We've never seen that before either. This is so odd that these people feel like they can go into Congress armed. And that is another one of those very strange phenomena that is happening right now. And so it seems to me that whatever is going on with the Republicans, we're going to have at least three branches, at least, of the Republican Party, which is only going to defeat them, by being splintered. I don't know either. And for me, when it comes to the R's, of course, and making America great again, my lens, of course, is looking at the racism and the white resentment, the zero-sum game that said, well, as soon as, Leanne is a woman and Peggy is a Native American got equal hiring rights, then we white men lost everything. That's how, that my lens works. And obviously there's more than that, but I think you're correct in saying how the power of his words reached those people, except the confusion is there was professional people in there. There were people who really were ready to set off bombs and kill Nancy Pelosi.
That's the point.
That's the point.
These are people who are trained to kill, and in many cases have experienced it abroad.
Yes.
And so that's why this is not just, this is the difference between, say, when there are people predominantly academics or from colleges or from the middle class with conscience out there. These are military trained people who know the weapons they have. I was looking at the way they've, some of them dress and all, and it's clear that there are some that are bought stuff at a military surplus and are hanging it on their bodies. There is clear that other people are wearing it as a comfortable costume for their persona and for their activity. In other words, for whom it's genuine, it's authentic in terms of their own lives. And the danger is that someone starts shooting, because it doesn't take but one or two people to actually start shooting, that if the guns are all around, it's infectious, and it's the poor people who get right in the way who are going to be killed. This is very, very distressing. And I have a feeling about what should take place just in terms of protecting the nation. I think that Biden should be inaugurated, should take the oath in private with Roberts, and then take it a second time. That is play acted taking it, but already have taken it in case he needs to act in a presidential way during the inauguration ceremony. I'm sure they've thought about that because Biden needs to be vested in the powers of the presidency. That's the one thing that will help because he becomes commander in chief of the military. He has resources to call upon. He can speak with authority. It also deprives Trump of any presidential authority because Biden will not be the president-elect, but the president. So one of the priorities I think, and I have great confidence it will happen, is to have him take the oath officially with Roberts before the ceremony and be the president as the thing opens up on Inauguration Day so that we have a legitimate government.
Herb, I think that's a very interesting and a good idea, but wouldn't that just feed into this craziness of private secret government, secret swearing in of Biden, overtaking the government? I mean, might that not just feed into all of that paranoia and craziness?
I'm sure it would. I mean, there's no question. On the other hand, we're put in a position of having to take unpleasant acts and welcome the criticism of the fools and counter it in order to preserve the nation. And so the question, that's why it's hard to sleep these days, that you have to weigh these things in which there's no obvious all good, solution.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I can't help but then that brings me back to the question about these. I don't know, the Republicans who say just the opposite. They are so afraid, clearly, of taking a stand that there is right and there is wrong. And this was what happened is clearly wrong. And they keep seeing it by degrees. Well, we don't really want to go that far and condemn it, or we have to have a long trial to prove that it could have been wrong. What is that fear that coming from? I mean, clearly they're afraid of something.
Yeah, well, it's almost like even Biden is guilty of this, is, well, going to go a little bit towards the right. It's almost like saying, I'm willing to tolerate a little bit of racism. Not too much racism, but a little bit of racism, just to remind people, is racism. There's no little bits in this game. It's not a game, but in this. I think they're afraid. I can't. There's no one thing that everybody's afraid of. Some are afraid of losing their legitimacy, their position. The others are afraid of being attacked by people imitating Trump who are ruthless, and some people are afraid for their families. Some people are secretly knowing publicly they have to renounce it, but wanting some of this to happen, being delighted in seeing the destruction of order as we know it. So I wouldn't say there's one thing there, but I would say that people are afraid that this means there are a whole bunch of they have to take chances. You know, in order to make a decent democracy, you have to take chances. I remember one thing my mentor, Miles Horton, told me. He was very deeply involved in the civil rights movement. And he said he knew there would be a civil rights movement when he realized that a lot of African Americans in the South, for moral reasons, stopped being afraid to die and were going out and going to act. And I think the point right now is you have to stop being afraid, or say, I am afraid, but I'm going to act because I'm afraid and don't want the consequences of my fear to infect children, to infect my family and to infect the body politic. I think that I would have to say any one of those Republicans who is hedging is allowing their fear and their ambition to overcome their moral values. I heard something this morning on some radio station or another. I like to flip around just to get a sampling. Someone who is a evangelical Christian was asked, he was saying, I am being forced now to reevaluate the people who use Christ and support Trump. And he said, in the past, I wanted both of them. I wanted to be both a good evangelical and a good supporter of what Trump stands for. And he said, now I know I can't do both. But I'm going to have to take a risk because a lot of the people in my congregation are fanatic Trump people. And they may reject me as their minister. And they may reject what I see as the proper belief for an evangelical Christian. But I have to take that chance. I think people have to be brought to that cutting edge of saying, I cannot look in the mirror and see myself without distortion unless I make that decision to renounce that kind of violence and that kind of politics. I mean, we have to have now a morality of renunciation of violence in the belly of the beast, because we all have to realize we are the belly of the beast. It means also totally giving up any idea of American exceptionalism, giving up any idea that American values are the purest values in the world. They never were, and they never will be, but we've not been very honest about that. So when people talk about the Constitution being this great moral document, reread the Constitution. And you will find that it's racist, it's sexist, it is on the side of the property owners. You want to read a good Constitution, read the Constitution of Namibia. They have incorporated all kinds of human rights and people's rights and all of the experiences with human trying to create a decent society, read all the other constitutions, and come up with one that I find quite exceptional. Same thing was attempted in South Africa. You know, the American Constitution is a patchwork quilt. That's what the amendments are all about. That you take the original document, and to say you're an originalist means you support slavery, you're opposed to female votes, you believe that the property owners have more rights than other human beings. To be an originalist is to be a hypocrite. And when I hear Supreme Court judges and all those people talking about the original interpretation, they're not really being honest with themselves, because first of all, the original is without the amendments. So they already are hedging a bit. They accept the original with the amendments. That's making an admission that the original was an imperfect document. Unless humility can pervade our sense of being America, I think we're in a lot of trouble, frankly. We need to be very humble about the idea that we are approximating and creeping towards decency, but we're not there.
I want to take a moment out. Thank you, Herb. You've given us so much to think about. You're listening to Herb Kohl, who is an author, an educator, someone who understands civil rights on a deep, deep level, having been there, worked with many of the leaders, and someone who educates me, uplifts me, and I hope uplifts you as the audience too, to think about other ways in what we're seeing in this history that we are all living through right now. And Herb comes on the second Wednesday of every month on Peggy's Place, one of our regulars, because I think it's important for us to think critically, to understand what that means, not to criticize, but to think about these issues deeply, whatever the issue is. And obviously, the only issue on all of our minds right now does have to do with the Constitution. And when you talk about the original Constitution, I also see it as focusing on commerce. And I think to a large degree that the English language is very male and it's commerce centered. And that's just my opinion about the language that we use. Now, you've raised so many interesting points in thinking about what happened, looking beyond the shock and awe of it, but that there was a lot of, it looks like, very professional actors involved in this. And we do hope that obviously that the good people within all of our so many security agencies that exist are examining all of this, not the ones that seem like they bought into it, that's happening. You also made me think, though, very deeply about the people who are sitting in, some of the people who are sitting in those seats in the House and the Senate. What did they think? They were not prepared, some of them, to face something like this happening. Were they there just for prestige? They think being a congressperson is, I just get to, I don't know what, we're just going to, take on a few bills and, I don't know what they were thinking, because this is ultimately the ultimate test of what being a congressperson is about. No one expected this, but other people are just simply not thinking about this at all when they ran for office, and suddenly they're being called to stand up for things.
I think what they were thinking of was some of them, not all of them, of the benefits of being in Congress, the capacity to ultimately get positions in commerce, in the foundation. They were thinking of the payoffs, that is, the materialistic payoffs and the political influence that they could use, not the moral responsibility and obligations they've assumed. And that I think there are a number of them who have not even given much thought whatever to what the obligations of their oaths were, because they don't take those obligations seriously. I'm here in Congress. You want a job for your son-in-law? Come to me. I'll find a place, because I'll grab a lobbyist who is kind of courting me now, and they will introduce your son-in-law to so-and-so, will give them a job. That's how they see their job. They also see their job as, oh, there's a cause out there that is I'm identified with, and I could push that. In other words, they have a material, operational definition of what being a legislator is, but not a moral definition of being a legislator. And I think that what it would be very useful was for people to push the idea that to be a legislator is to have a moral position with moral obligations, and that it's not merely a power position to give gifts to other people and receive them yourselves, or to advocate for a cause that you and your friends will benefit from, but other people won't. I think the crucial thing that's got to be at the center of all the conversation now are moral issues. And do me a favor, please. I don't mean you, Peggy. Don't make it a Christian issue. This is not a Christian nation, and this is being less and less of a Christian nation than it's ever been. There are Muslims, there are Jews, there are people who are secular and do not believe. There are all kinds of other ways of being reverent and moral. So try to get to the core of what's moral, not tagged on to an obligation to an organization.
Okay, I'm going to step in here for just a second here. And I also want to remind people this is also being carried on KGUA's YouTube channel live. Now, I want to make a couple of points. First, I want to speak to religion because Native Americans did not get religious freedom until 1978. Yeah. 1978, the American Indian Religious Freedom Act was passed. Now, what I wanted to say, and I've been saying this for a couple of days, but the thing that I know about Indian religions, we have never fought a war against somebody else's religion. We have never said, our God is better than your God. We embrace each other's gods. The Pueblo people have a lot of gods. Some people worship the whale. Some people worship the pipe. Other people worship other things. We have never gone to war with each other and said, if you don't stop worshiping that pipe, we're just going to kill you all. Never has that ever happened. No, we do just the opposite. We go to as many ceremonies as possible and say, oh, wow, who's holding a ceremony? Oh, over there, I'm going to go. I've heard there's good medicine over there, because it's about healing the whole body and the universe. It's always beyond us. It's not about me. You can't go into a sweat lodge and pray for yourself to get all the things that you deserve. That's not what it's about. So I just want to say that because I don't understand these other religions that have for centuries been killing each other over their God or somebody else's God. I just put that out there. I want to bring up one other thing, though, that, and maybe I'm looking at this wrong, but it seems to me that another different thing that's happening outside of Congress, and one of the things that might be helping shift Congress, is that the corporate world is turning and saying, no more of this. We're not talking just Facebook and Twitter, but some of the big funders are saying, we're not going to fund you guys anymore who are going along with this stuff. In the 60s, there had to be boycotts of businesses, all right? We're seeing some heads of companies just immediately saying, some CEOs saying, that's the end of this. We're not supporting what you think is okay, that just happened. It's not okay. Am I misreading that, or is that really happening?
No, I think that you're not misreading it. And I think what's interesting is ever since pretty much the Occupy movement, the whole question of talking about the values of capitalism has become alive again. Before that, you would never find an institutional or people on the air questioning the fundamental principles of capitalism unless they were in Pacifica or, it just unfortunately too much of a fringe. But I think capitalism is undergoing self-questioning right now.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is, again, the question is, is there such a thing as decency and being a capitalist possible? Can I be a moral capitalist? Can I, for example, continue to make profit off of other people while some people are starving? These are issues that are raised right at the core, I think now, of a lot of corporate leadership. And that's because young people are pushing them. You might say it's a revolt of generations of people between 20 and 50 who have grown up to a large degree, many of them, in a world of having read widely, having seen justice in action and in inaction, and who are thoughtful, somewhat critical people. And so there's a revaluing of values going on probably at every level of society now. And then whenever there's a revalue of values, there's a retrenchment. So you get some people who are not saying, count me out, I'm going to stand militant in service of the old or in service of power. But there is, like you say, a lot of the corporate leadership and a lot of the corporations. Well, also, something strikes me. These days, ideas keep bubbling around my head. The people who are buying things from contemporary corporations are themselves more critical of capitalist ideas since they've been to college and been exposed to ideas than they were before. So you might say it's in capitalist self-interest to examine the moral grounds upon which people purchase things, say. The moral grounds, that's what the environmental movement has created, a sense of saying, is this good for the environment? And you also have to say, is this good for humanity? But once you start raising those questions, people who control capitalist structure and who are dependent on people buying those things in a society where there's choice have to worry that they're going against the pocketbook of those people who have different moral values and more open, humane values. So there's a revaluation of value, which is not negative, but it's all too slow. I think this is going to push it a lot. I think that a lot of people are going to see what people like Trump and who represent that kind of militant fascist reactionaryism can affect the whole society. They're not marginal anymore.
Wonderful. I'm glad that we are seeing that, and nothing is moving quickly enough, obviously, and nothing is moving quickly enough, particularly for young people. I have a question, though. One of the things that Trump and some of his supporters like to blame, say, Nancy Pelosi on, are that they're socialists. They're trying to bring socialism to this country. What do they mean by that? What
I
are
don't
they
know,
saying?
because I think it would be a good idea to bring socialism.
Well, then
to-
what do you think socialism is?
I think socialism is an organization of society in which the fundamental needs of all the people are a priority in terms of the organization of the economy and the distribution of resources and the capacity for growth, so that there is a moral obligation on everybody's part, for example, to see that there's no hunger, that there's no neglect, that there's no one group exploiting another. So that's the way I see it. And I think it means that within that context, you should have the maximum amount of choice consistent with not depriving other people of similar choices. That's my conception of socialism. I got it, by the way, from my grandpa. It's not something I discovered myself. He was a socialist all of his life till the day he died. And by the way, not a leader, not an intellectual. He was, when there was a picket line, he was the one who was on the picket line, not leading the picket line. He was a worker, a physical worker. And, but he saw himself as part of humanity. He was an internationalist, you might say, not a nationalist. As a Jew, for example, he was not a Zionist. He was an internationalist, anti-Zionist. And not an anti-Semite, by the way, which is a little trope that's being used by the right now, is if you're a Jew and you criticize Israel. I criticize Israel. I'm 100% Ashkenaz. So anyway, but that's what I mean by socialism. It means conviviality. It means so much of what you were describing about native religions. Oh, there's a good idea next door. Let's examine it. Oh, someone's hungry. Let me go to the fridge. My grandma used to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's hungry in a neighborhood. Let me go to the fridge, see what I got. If I got something I could give, I'm going to give it. If I only have a little, I'll give part of what I have. It's a way of living that can then be translated in a way of organizing a community and a way of being part of the world. Socialism is not something to be afraid of. People want you to be afraid of it because they want you to obey them. You see, you're afraid of socialism taking over what? Why don't you ask yourself that question? I'm afraid of socialism taking over the health system. Oh, you mean other people should have no health care? It's socialism to be sure that everyone has the right and the absolute ability to access health care? Oh, that's a terrible thing, isn't it? See, I like to argue with people who talk about, I think we have to stop demonizing words like socialism and open ourselves to ideas. If you live in London, which I do, to say you're a socialist, it means they'll say to you, what kind of socialist? You live in Paris, the same thing. You live in Barcelona. You live in almost anywhere else in the world. Now, in some cases, if you deviate from a certain kind of socialism, you go to jail. But that's not the socialism I'm talking about. That's kind of a fascist communism.
And that is, I think, what the MAGA people have been led to believe, that socialism will lead to this type of fascism, and they're going to lose their guns, and they're going to have to open up their refrigerators to the hungry and poor, and somehow it all comes back to the individual. You know, the word that you have used, I think, just about the most today is moral. And that's really the lesson about the Congress people, the people who did not exercise their morality when they decided to kill police officers, to storm the Capitol, all of the things that we have been seeing on TV, this morality that has been turned around, and these moral issues. So I mean, I don't know where we're going. I mean, there are Liz Cheney, deep Republican roots, displayed a deep sense of morality in her repudiation of what Donald Trump did. And we see some of these other, particularly the newer Congress people, but others, even Mitch McConnell has come around, but he won't say it publicly. He lets it be announced that he's all for impeachment. So again, it's that moral compass, that ability to stand up for the right things at the right time and not hide somewhere and do something about it. Darn, we got about 10 minutes left here. Herb, you share so many lessons with us. And like you, my brain is popping all over the place as we are witnessing this amazing point. I do feel that there has been a shift for the better. It's not it's not like we've totally gone off in a great direction, but I do believe that wall of immorality has been, and it's hard to not use words of war. It's hard not to use words of violence when, you want to say, but we're making progress. But I mean, the first thing is like that wall of immorality was pierced. It's hard not to use that kind of language. I'm finding that bothers me when I find those kinds of words of violence come to my mind to express even the good things that are happening.
Well, it seems to me that it's a real dilemma. It's a real dilemma. On the other hand, I would accept the fact that we are in moral conflict. We are in a battle in the sense that people are trying to destroy our life, to live our capacity to live a decent life in a decent society. So we have to accept that there's a battle. Now, to say we're at war, we're not going to war. I'm not going to try to destroy anyone else. I'm preventing certain things from happening and certain things from preventing me and other people from living a decent life. It's a moral conflict that verges on war. And I don't know any other way to describe it. It's a battle. It's like in the civil rights movement. People were going to kill you. And you could be nonviolent, but you could also protect yourself and have self-defense. But even more so, you can understand that you're trying to destroy structures of violence. And that's the nature of the war. Even when you're nonviolent, your goal is to destroy structures of racism. So that's, you take it as you want, you are in opposition.
Well,
And you're going to defend your position of opposition in a positive way. You're not, with Trump, I personally would put him on the Isle of Elba by himself, like they did with Napoleon. Except I build a big wall around it and throw the rest of his family in and let them destroy each other. That's the problem with what's going on now. Makes me think in violent terms. When I think about Trump, I cannot think kindly. I cannot think humanely. I have to face that in me. That attempt to be a warrior for justice puts that part of me, which has some violent sentiments, mobilized. And I have to fight it. But the point is, I'm going to fight them from hurting other people. You know what I hear in myself as I get excited and talk about that? My old Bronx accent comes back. It reminds me of talking the way I used to talk in the Bronx. And
it's good. That's good.
Please.
I'd like talking about this in terms of the broader sense of this moral war that our nation is undergoing, albeit because of the mass media, we're seeing it through legal terms. I mean, we have some of the greatest legal minds talking about this. That's fine. I'm enjoying hearing the legal nuances. But I want to go back to that group of people that was there and apparently are somewhere fomenting their anger and ready, because they too have this feeling that they are fighting for a high moral ground, and their disenfranchisement and whatever it is that this fantasies they have that America has lost it. They are the anti-moral reality to me, and yet they're there. They're there, and they've been there. I mean, that's no secret.
And they will be there.
And they will be there. There's this type of people that Donald Trump, understanding symbolism, knew and knows how to reach them. And yeah, I think there's a lot of things that could be done to him that just would never be enough, because he does not have any kind of moral compass, no moral clarity, nothing that can reach him other than to say, I'm the victim, I've been wronged, and, I deserve all of this. I
think one thing that characterizes him is that he deep down does not believe that other people have feelings, that he's the only one who has feelings. And other people do not have feelings, so they can be treated like objects, even if they're in his family.
Yes. Okay, I understand what you're saying there. Absolutely. They are there just for him to manipulate. We are there for him to manipulate for his means.
Well,
it is.
We will get rid of him, but we will not get rid of those ideas. And maybe I'm a Manichaean in the sense that this.
Okay, we don't know what that means.
What?
We don't know what that means, Manichaean.
It means that the world will always be functioning in a battle between good and evil. And that there will always be these forces contending with each other. And that when you think one is dominant, the other is just dormant and will come back and fight again. So that we will not see an end to the Trumpness, though we may see an end to Trump, but we will not see the end to the sentiment of decency. That's what let's say that instead of socialism is just a corollary of the sense of decency. And decency, in my mind, will prevail, but not in my lifetime, maybe not in the lifetime of the universe. But decency is the force that we have to stand with. So that's the way I see it. And Trump is an epiphenomena. That is, he's just temporary evil, because he too will die. He too will be gone. But what he represents will not be gone. Fortunately, if you look at his sons and his daughters and all those people, they have no charisma. He's got the charisma. And that's what the danger is. Charisma means he goes straight to the emotional center of certain people and moves them. You can't scream it, you can't do anything. If you got the charisma, it's like a disease. You're dangerous one way or another. Martin Luther King Jr. had the charisma. Look how many people followed him. He disappeared. His spirit may not. His spirit is still alive in the spirit of decency.
Okay, we're going to have to call it.
All right,
I'm so sorry. Thank
I'm
you.
going to go outside and scream into the wilderness.
Thank you, Herb Kohl, and thank you for helping us move on with our moral course in life. And yes, we're tired of, we're no more, Trump unfortunately is like Jim Jones, and we need more Martin Luther Kings. So thank you so much, Herb. Take care. We got to go. Bye-bye. All right, Peggy here at KGUA in Walla. We we're talking with the wonderful Herb Kohl, and wow, he always gets me energized. I learned so much, and we shared this on our YouTube channel. He's smiling. He's like, wow, where did we just go on that? So it's time for us to go to Native America calling live from Albuquerque, New Mexico, as we get on with the rest of this Wednesday here. This is KGUA in Walla, 88.3.